This is a very unusual vacuum that I picked up from Craigslist yesterday. It's a Hoover Spirit. People who know Hoovers know that this Spirit name has been used many times over the years. Hoover's come out with different models, and as Hoover has been bought out by several companies, changed hands multiple times since they came up with this name Spirit. I saw this on Craigslist a few days ago, and I was in shock that I'd never seen one of these before, and I figured, well, it was close enough. It was on Craigslist right in my town, so I picked it up yesterday, and it actually works pretty well. I do not know very much about this vacuum because there's very little information online about it. I will say I do know that this particular design was also sold as a bag model, and those are a little bit more common. I've actually owned one of those in the past. It was blue. They also came in a green color, maybe another color as well, but I distinctly remember blue and green. Its design is very much like a Panasonic vacuum cleaner in the sense that you have these two latches right here. You can take like a penny or flathead screwdriver, basically turn them over, and you can lift this hood up and change the belt. So that, in that respect, it's very much Panasonic in design. You lift this cover up, and this whole general base looks just very much like a typical Panasonic upright. From what I've heard, this vacuum was a lower end vacuum. It sold for probably less than $100. But for such a cheap vacuum, it's actually made of a very sturdy plastic. So it's actually a very well made machine. I'm impressed about that. You can see this is kind of neat. The dusting brush and the upholstery tool store on the back of the machine, as well as the crevice tool. It does have a stretch hose. The only problem is when you go to stretch it, it only stretches a couple feet before it starts to tip over, as you can see. So that's kind of a quirk about this vacuum. It does have these two wands, which again was very standard on Hoover uprights of this time period. This one was made in February of 2005, so it was right before Hoover was bought out by TTI. You can see it's got a wind tunnel brush roll in there that's actually in pretty decent shape. I don't think this vacuum was used very much. I think it was mainly used as a spare vacuum. The people I got this from said that they had 3 vacuums and they were looking to downsize. You know, whether that's actually true, I have no idea. But you can see that this latch clip is like cracked right there. And I've seen that on Panasonics too. They have this system that sometimes this piece is cracked. So obviously it's a bagless vacuum. Like I said, this is the first time I've seen a bagless version of this, and I never even knew bagless versions of this vacuum existed. So that's why I picked it up. And so let's talk about the bagless filtration. So it's got this button that you push down on, and this pulls right out. Dirt comes in through this inlet right here, and then the dirt that goes through the filter up here exhausts through this vent right here, which goes down into the motor, then exhausts out this final filter, which again is a standard Hoover filter. You see this is a typical green, yellow, and white felt filter. You see these on wind tunnels of this era all the time. It's the same kind of filter. I just added this filter for just some extra filtration because this vacuum does not have very good filtration. This is just an insert cut from a HEPA vacuum bag that I just happened to have on hand. So that was a slight modification to it, and based on using it once after installing that new filter, it really doesn't cut down on the airflow very much, so that's not a big deal. But So that's the post motor filter. So now let's take a look at the cyclone assembly. So you pull this up and the shroud lifts up. You can see this is a shroud right here. Now from what I've heard, this very well could be a British design on this vacuum. And that would not surprise me because I've looked at some European Hoovers of the same time period, and a lot of them have shrouds that look very much like this. So I would not be surprised if this is actually British design, but made ultimately for the American market. So up in here we have this cylindrical foam filter that says washable filter right on it. So that's kind of interesting, and it fits right back in here. So this is where the filtration, like I said, is not that great, because all you have for filtration really is this foam filter, which goes through these screen holes and then through this foam filter, then out this felt filter. So it really doesn't have a very good filtration system. But again, this was very, very common to see on cheaper vacuums, especially vacuums during this time period when dual multi-cyclonic vacuums other than Dyson's were really non-existent on the market, really. So it's a single cyclone. This is the only cyclone right here. This is a dustbin, which is actually has a fairly large capacity. You can fill it up to here. The only thing that I and this is just mainly for aesthetics, but I don't like that it has this big bump out right here, so dirt really in this vacuum doesn't really spin around, so I kind of like to see it spinning around, and because of this thing it kind of cuts it off and it can't really spin around. Kind of reminds me of Dirt Devil Vision, these swivel glide visions that kind of had something like that too. The reason why this is here though is because what happens is the dust goes through this filter and it goes down in this inlet and out this hole right here. This is where the air comes. This is where the air travels. This is where the motor pulls the air through, and then it goes through this inlet, then through this filter. So that's why that is there, because this is where the air travels through this vacuum in order to go into the motor. So it's a fairly large capacity dustbin. And again, this kind of a design was fairly standard for the time that this vacuum was made, because there really weren't any multi-cyclonic vacuums available on the American market, or any market really at the time that this vacuum was made. Dyson was pretty much the only one. So I have not actually used it on carpeting yet, so that's going to be something new. I'm going to guess that it actually probably cleans pretty well, because it's got that wind tunnel brush roll, and it does have a decent amount of airflow through the hose. This is the cord wheel right here, the wrap right here, standard length cord, but like I said, for a vacuum that's sold for less than $100 new, it's actually built pretty well. I am very impressed about that. You can see there's a little bit of a stress on this lower cord clip. Again, I see that a lot on vacuums that have plastic cord clips. This is a model U5019-900, made in China by the Hoover Company, North Canton, Ohio, with a build date of February 2005. So, and like I said, I really have not found any information on this vacuum online. I have seen a parts diagram and the manufacturer's picture, but that's it. I have not actually seen any like for sale or anything for that matter. So, it's, and it's got a little ding in the cord right there. So I'm gonna say it's pretty rare, because I've been collecting them long enough now that I've pretty much seen everything. But I can't really see it as being worth very much, because it's a newer Bagless vacuum, but it is still very unusual. And because it's unusual, that's why I ended up getting it. So I'm going to lower it down to the lowest carpet setting, and I'll give it a quick run. The motor has a pretty pleasant sound to it. It doesn't have that annoying whine of a lot of newer Bagless vacuums. So that's one added bonus, I suppose. But I'm gonna give this Hoover Spirit thing a run, and let's see if it picks up anything. So actually it is spinning around a little bit, which surprised me because it has that big bump in the back that would have thought would have stopped it from dirt spinning too much, but I'm actually very impressed. This vacuum actually works extremely well. It's got a lot of airflow through the hose, and well, let's see what picked up. And another reason why I can tell this vacuum doesn't filter well is it's got this big gap right here, and I can just hear, I could feel the air, a little bit of air rushing at the top of this. So this vacuum definitely does not have a very high standard of filtration. But again, I'm not expecting it to. It's a lower end Bagless upright with a single cyclone. So okay, it's got a little bit of crap there, and let's see, let's dump it out. And wow, that's actually not bad, since this section of the rug was vacuumed less than a week ago. So I got a bunch of dusty stuff in there. And let's see if there's anything on the filter. So yeah, filter's got some dust on it. Not too bad, but you know, again, it's a low efficiency single cyclone, so you know, I'm not really expecting it to filter to very high levels at all. But you can look at this, the features you need for the dirt you don't. Convenience with no bags to replace. The easy empty dirt cup saves time and money. Easy access belt change, a Panasonic idea, makes changing belts a snap. Performance, 5-stage filtration, well that's a stretch, collects the usual suspects like allergens and pollutants. Durable, flexible hose, cleans hard to reach spots. Well, can't really get very far. You saw how easily that thing tips over. It doesn't really reach very far, but anyway, that is the Hoover Spirit. Very unusual vacuum. These weren't sold for very long. Otherwise we would have seen more around. So, hope you enjoyed the video.